I can't quite believe that we've managed to get to 50 episodes. For somebody who didn't have a laptop and have any idea of what the podcast was going to be about, we've not done too badly. Thank you so much for joining us. This episode is part celebration, part therapy session, if I'm completely honest, but it is packed with insight, and I'm so glad that you're here. Today I am chatting to Sarah McDowell. She is the co-host of the SEO Mindset podcast, and she is the reason why I'm here, because back in January 2024, we met at her nephew's birthday party. And following a very brief conversation, I decided to ask for her number, and that is where it all began. If you've been here for a little while, you will know a bit about why I decided to launch that particular week. So it was the 24th of April 2024. If you haven't yet listened to the trailer and the first episode, then do go and listen to it, and it'll just give you a little insight into why this podcast has become such an important part of my life. So today we're chatting to Sarah about how this podcast was born. We talk about overcoming self-doubt and the imposter gremlins. Sarah talks a little bit about a book that she read called Solve for Happy. And we also talk about the power of slowing down and tuning in. Now, this is part 1 of the 50th episode. If you follow me on social media, you'll know that part 2 is going to be released a little bit later on and available to those who sign up for the Wild Wanderer membership. So if you are interested, then do head over to the show notes and click on the link to take you to the Wild Wanderer membership. Sign up. Let's get to the episode. I know, 50 episodes.
That's like fabulous. Especially, I've been looking at some data, some stats and that, and to be in the top 1% of all podcasts, you've just got to reach 21 episodes.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
So that people don't stick at it, Lucy. So the fact that you stuck at it for more than double the benchmark, you're in the 1% club. Hey!
Oh, I feel so special. And there's been plenty of times that I have wanted to give up.
Oh no, why? Tell Auntie Sarah.
Because I'm doing absolutely everything to do with it. So I'm reaching out to guests, I'm doing all of the sort of editing, I'm doing the marketing and the promoting. It's a lot. It takes a lot of time. I don't think people realise how much time and effort and energy it takes. Because even just hosting a podcast, I mean, you'll know because you co-host the SEO Mindset, but to be on camera and to be, engaging and using your voice to communicate ideas and stories, it's a lot. Plus on top of that, work, other responsibilities that we have, wanting to give up, not because I didn't want to do it, just because sustaining it is really tricky.
I remember when I started my very first podcast, SEO SAS, back in the day, because me and my co-host were the G.I. Janes of the SEO industry. We thought we were very smart with that. But yeah, I remember when I first thought about doing a podcast and I was like, it won't take long. Like, how long does it take to record an episode? Not really thinking about all the moving parts around it. And it is a commitment, but I think from the people that I've met, you either fall in love with podcasting or fall in love with having a podcast. So you just put the work in, don't you?
Yeah, you make the time. You make the time to do it. And I found that, a lot of the editing happens, certainly when I'm at work, it happens in the evenings. And it has become a priority for me, because I don't know about you, but there's something quite magical about podcasting. It feels very intimate, and the people that we meet along the way, to learn, to keep learning, and you want to bring that learning to your listeners.
I mean, that is something that I didn't think about. So now I have a platform where I can invite people to come and have a really good conversation for half an hour. And if I didn't have the podcast, I wouldn't have that same platform. I wouldn't be able to be like, oh, come and talk to me, have a virtual coffee. I imagine people would love to do that, but we're all busy humans. But having a podcast, it gives that more of a purpose. And then you get to learn, you get to have these wonderful conversations, and you get to pass that on with your audience. And yeah, I've had so many wonderful conversations on a podcast, made wonderful friends having a podcast. And yeah, like I'm all for it. Sounds like you are too.
I think everyone should try it.
Yeah.
When I first started, I was so self-conscious, and there are still aspects of sort of hearing my voice and kind of sharing my opinions, my perspectives on certain topics that I shy away from and I worry about. I overthink, oh, should I say that? Shouldn't I say that? Who am I to think that? There is still that self-doubt. But over time and sort of witnessing my guests' willingness to be vulnerable and to share their experiences with me, I have gained so much confidence. Like, I don't feel like I need to silence myself as much.
Well, that's just lovely to hear, isn't it? You've
I
come
did
out.
just do jazz hands for those people who are listening. I've come out of the closet.
What? I'm just going to ask, what closet is this? Because
I don't know. Oh, I've been saying that I'm a recovering perfectionist. I don't know what closet it is. I was writing a few things down before we came on to record, and there's been the last week has been very moving for me. There's been a lot of things that have happened this week, some very deep healing going on.
Okay.
And so the closet has been, I think, one of shame. It's very deep for 9:15 that we're recording this, but like, shame is just so, it's like a cloak.
Yeah.
And you become hidden in plain sight. And now you're like, you come out of the closet, the shame closet.
When you say moving, something that I was very aware of was, so I'm in my mid-30s now, and when I turned early 30s, I realised that I didn't really know myself. We're getting very deep now, aren't we?
I
Not
love it.
even had any wine, or like I'm on the water, on the H2O.
I'm on the chamomile tea. Living it
is in
large.
that chamomile tea, I wonder. Something that I was really aware of was, because as you're like growing up, you get influenced by a lot of people and stuff and experiences around you. And I remember getting to a point where I was, I don't know, like not very, what am I trying to say? I've always been a massive people pleaser. I've always strived, like, I want people to like me. And I think in me doing that and having these people pleasing ways, I've never really ever put myself first. And yeah, like, it was a bit of a like journey for me, because I did the therapy, I did the counselling when I hit 30, just to like understand how I tick and the shame that I have, or the misconceptions I have, or a big learning, was why I react in different ways. And yeah, like I think this is going to be a weird segue to go in from that to talk about podcasting, but I think podcasting is a very unique medium in a sense of you get to be creative and you get to try these things and you get to have a voice and you get to learn what your voice is. And you're in a safe space that you're doing it. Like, I mean, there is twice a year where I do a live podcast, and I do a podcast in front of an audience, which is a whole different kettle of fish, and I really enjoy that. But going back to what you said earlier, when I'm recording my usual podcast, it's either me and Tasmin or me and a guest, and it's just us two in a room, and you kind of forget about, this is other people are going to listen to this, don't you?
Yeah.
And yeah, I realised that I went on a weird segue there.
Oh, I love it.
Going from my journey, and I can relate in some ways. Obviously, it's a bit different. But also, I don't know, are we saying podcasting can be therapeutic?
I think it is. I absolutely think it is, because it's almost like talk therapy.
I don't need a therapist now. I've got a podcast.
Oh, yeah, I've got the podcast. I think that, I mean, it certainly has been a therapy. I mean, you and I met over a year ago, April, just before, actually, wasn't it? It was like in the new year of 2024.
Yes, because it was my nephew's birthday party.
That's right. That's right. Small world. And, doing the 6-week course, and really, I mean, even in that very, very short space of time, there was an element of therapy in some ways. Deciding, well, what do you want to create? What is it that you want to say? What do you want the brand to stand for? What's the mission? How do you want people to feel? And so often when you are in social situations, you go in with those same intentions. It's like, well, what am I trying to say right now? How do I want the other person to feel? How am I feeling in relation to this other person?
So just to quickly add a quick thought that's gone in my brain. So back in the day, I was much more conscious about how the other person was feeling. Whereas now, I'm a lot more wary of how I'm feeling. Like, of course, like, I'd never acted a certain way, hopefully, where, am I allowed to swear on this podcast? I don't know.
Yeah, go for it.
I'd never want someone to spend time with me. I'm like, oh, that Sarah's a bit of a dick, isn't she? Like, I'm not.
I have never thought that, just for the record.
There's people that you spend time with that bring you energy, and time flies. And there's been other situations where, like, not that it's been awful or anything like that, but it's very different. Like, I think I'm quicker to know, like, who my kind of vibe are, who my people are, who I feel comfortable with, and conversation just flows, and you're kind of on the same wavelength with what, like, your values and all of that sort of stuff.
And all of that you bring to the podcasting space as well, because there's so much listening and observing that's going on when you are recording an episode with a guest or with your co-host in your circumstance. So, you're really attuned to the other person, but also to, how you are feeling and what you're curious about and what you want to explore and in that moment. And I think, it's super special. It is. And like you say, you don't need to, like, we're recording this now, and when this goes out, 'cause it's going out on Monday, when this goes out, people are going to listen to it, and we have no control over what people think or say or do in response to this. And
how does that make you feel?
It's really freeing.
Ah,
It's really freeing because I'm normally like, I must control everything. And when I'm in control, I feel safe. So, whereas with the podcast, it's so freeing because I am not responsible for how my listeners react or think, or like
mm,
in a sense. I mean, I am very mindful of the stories that I'm bringing to them, and I feel a deep sense of responsibility to the guests. And I always send the edited version of the podcast episode to the guests, because I always say, this is your story. I want you to be happy with what's going out into the world. But beyond that, we don't have any control over the listener's experience. I don't know. What do you think?
no, I do. I relate to that because I think you've probably said something there that a lot of people and people who are listening to this episode can really relate with, where depending on your experiences or who you are as a person, you do certain things to feel safe. And I completely get that. If you can control a situation, of course that's going to bring you safety because you know what's going to happen. And I understand that it is freeing to a certain extent. I know that you've still got to be mindful about the things that you put out there and making sure that guests are happy with the version that you're bringing and stuff. But it is definitely freeing. And to be completely honest, it's not until you've said that I'm actually thinking, well, yeah, definitely. Like, so it is therapeutic because you can't control everything. You can't control how someone takes a message. You can't control. And yeah, like, of course, if I ever caused any offence to anyone, I would always try and rectify that. But I don't think we're talking about that. We're talking more about, like, when someone listens to a podcast episode, they're bringing their own experience and thoughts and angles and opinions about it, aren't they? And you can't control everything. And I think as soon as you can, it's like a breath, isn't it? Like, I can't control everything, and that's okay.
Yeah. It's interesting thinking about the live podcasts that you do, there is a little less control because it's live. So how does that feel?
I've always been a performer. And this is something that I've come to realise, that if I look back until I was wee little Sarah to adult Sarah, there's always been something that I've done that has an area of an element of performance. Like, I love the rush. I love the adrenaline. Adrenaline? Adrenaline.
La.
Carry on, please. That was wonderful. I'm a bit. There's that certain rush that I'm just drawn to, and I love it. And yeah, like, so if I look back, all the stuff that I've got involved with. So, at school, when I had to, like, pick my A levels, I did performing arts and dance. When I went to uni, I studied dance. At uni, I got involved in student radio. When after, I can't remember, I don't think it was that long between me getting involved in local student radio, then I found podcasting. There was a bit when I used to play roller derby, and there's like a performance element in that. And this is a very long-winded way of saying, so your question was, how do you feel about when you do a live podcast? It's one of my favourite times. So we do it twice a year, and it's one of my favourite times because I love performing, and I think there's just this weird thing that something's switched on in me.
Yeah.
And I love speaking. So, because I thought that this is very apt for your podcast and topics, but
Yes.
when I came away from uni and I did SEO, digital marketing, I was like, okay, that's my performance over. Like, I'm not going to do that anymore. But actually, it wasn't until I thought, like, when I got into SEO and digital marketing, it wasn't long before I was getting up on stage and educating and talking to people. It wasn't long until I pestered my good friend to do the SEO SAS podcast. So it's really funny. Like, I think I've always made it happen. Like, I'm a creative person. I love entertaining. Like, I think I like to make people, I don't know, feel good in some way, whether that's that they've been heard, they feel joy, laughter, like whatever it is. And one of my goals is whenever I am on stage, and another thing that I've recently been doing is moderating. So moderating, emceeing.
Yes. Oh, yeah.
And yeah, like I always try, and I feel like I failed if I haven't got a laugh. I always need at least one laugh. So that's a very long-winded way of saying I flipping love a live podcast because that's my vibe. That's my thing.
Yeah, I mean, there's so much in there about this role of the performer. From the moment we get up, we're performing some sort of role.
Yes.
Whether it be, girlfriend, mother, daughter, friend, whatever job we do.
Podcaster. Who's reached 50 episodes.
50 episodes, yeah. But I think there is something very different when you are in your creative zone, in your creative space, your creative habit, as one of my guests, John, talks about. When you find your creative habit, whether that be podcasting, dancing, crocheting, baking, whatever it is, the adrenaline, the rush, the energy is very different. And I think over the episodes that I've recorded so far, and I'm trying to answer that, is it a necessity? Is it a luxury? I think we need it. It's part and parcel of us being human and creating a life and all of those things. Maybe the luxury is the making money out of it. The luxury comes when you can make a career out of the creative habit. The necessity is the struggling artist, the kind of the process.
Creativity means different things to different people. So something that I used to think was creativity was a certain thing that had its own box. And I've heard lots of people say, oh, I'm not very creative. And I'm going to challenge that now when I hear people say that, because creativity comes in lots of different forms. Like cooking dinner, there's creativity in how you present stuff on a plate. There's creativity in, I don't know whether this is going a bit off-piste, but creativity in if you've got small humans, small kids, and keeping them entertained. There's creativity in that.
Oh, yeah. I actually managed to get Oscar out of his pajamas and into his school uniform the other day by using an imaginary remote control.
Oh.
And we had a great time. And we weren't late, which was my aim. But yeah, there is creativity in that. But I also think there's like creativity in the way that you see the world, the way that you
Yes.
interact with the world.
Yes.
You know, like this is going to sound really strange, but there must be a term for this. But, you know, driving along and you see the beautiful sort of the shapes that the birds make as they're flying.
Yeah.
And like when that happens, I'm like, I'm in a film. I hear music. Do you know what I mean? Like, and it's the way that I kind of experience the world.
Yeah, no, and I think everyone just needs to be more open, because I think there's a certain, and again, it would be to protect yourself. So I read a very good book on holiday.
Oh, yes, I
called
want to talk about your holiday as well.
Solve for Happy. Have you heard of Solve for Happy?
Solve for
solve is in
Happy.
you're solving a maths equation. Solve for Happy. And it's a cracking book. It's a really, really good book. And basically, one of the main themes is there's a lot that happens where our brain is thinking that it is keeping us safe. Because primitive brain, when we were cave people, had to survive tiger attacks or random attacks from whatever life. So your primitive brain was always on because danger was everywhere. Your brain nowadays, still, there's moments where if you start to feel nervous about something or uneasy, that primitive brain will switch on, if that makes sense. And it's a lot about retraining your brain and sort of getting your brain to a state where you're saying, it's okay, brain, you don't need to do this thing to protect me. Like, so for example, the first time that I went on stage and spoke in front of an audience, I was not wetting myself because that means that you're laughing. What's the other one?
Shitting yourself?
Yeah.
What's the other one?
The other one? I've already done one swear. I don't know if I can do another one.
It's okay. Apparently there's something on Captivate that I can just mark a little E.
Well,
someone told me that. I think it was you.
Just so wise. So wise. Yeah, so I was so nervous and my brain was thinking about all these things of like why I shouldn't do it. But the reason the brain was doing that was because it was trying to stop me from doing it to keep me safe. And there's an exercise that he gets you to do where you basically just be still with yourself and you notice the thoughts that come into your brain, and most of them will be negative because, again, it's your brain thinking the worst case scenario because that's how it can keep you safe. So again, it's being aware of these negative thoughts that are coming into our brain, but not allowing them to sit and fester in your brain. I mean, we're getting into meditation now, aren't we? And I did try this.
Meditation and mindfulness. Yeah.
I'd just, whatever thought came into my brain, and I just kind of tried to wave it off. Do you know what I mean? Like, let it go and then see what other thought and just let it go. But I think there's a lot of people who would love to do this creative thing that pushes them outside of their comfort zone, but their primitive brain is kicking in to this perceived danger, being, oh, you can't do that because you'll be ridiculed, you'll be this, you'll be that. When in actual fact, how do you know? Like, mostly, because that was one of the thoughts, like, oh, what if I go on stage and I say something wrong and everyone, like, like thinking negative thoughts. But then I was thinking, no, people don't think like that. Because I remember when I went to my first conference and I had so much respect for anyone getting up on stage because I was like, well, I would never do that. So, and actually, unless you're a dickhead, people aren't wanting you to fail. But it's your own, that primitive brain or your own, what's the word that I'm thinking about?
It's almost like the inner critic.
Yeah.
The inner critic, because I've been thinking a lot about this recently. And in fact, I have just written the next installment of the newsletter, which is out now, which is a new thing that I've recently launched without really thinking about.
So, gang and listeners,
Oh, it's so funny, isn't it? I was just like, I'm just going to do it.
you can't breeze past that. You're going to put the link to the show notes so people can sign up.
I totally am. Yes, make sure put it in the show notes. Remember, Lucy. But about the inner critic and how often, and it comes back to the thing that I said at the start, which is about the silencing. Like how often we silence what we want to express in whatever medium that's going to be in. And, that voice is often like an over critical teacher or parent, or maybe a stranger said something to you once and that's really stuck with you and you haven't been able to let that go. It might just be like this fear of perfection, of, just these unbelievably high expectations that we have of ourselves, and that fear of failure. Getting up on the stage and you just falling flat on your face, literally and metaphorically,
tripping on that step.
Yeah, exactly. And you know what? So many times I've gone into an interview lesson or on stage, something happens, and it's how you sort of recover from those moments where you trip over your feet, or there's so much learning in those experiences as well.
But those experiences make you human and make you relatable, because I've seen speakers who will do something and they're like, and they just make a joke of it, like, oh, that was awkward. Like,
yeah, exactly.
Like, yeah, you can recover from it, definitely.
And I think there's something in there as well that you said about the slowing of things down. Just this week, we did some Qigong breath work and really slow movement and, grounding, meeting the earth, reconnecting with nature, and intentionally being much slower. Because I think we are just so busy. Right at the start of the conversation, we said, we manage the podcast around lots of other things that we have to do. Actually giving yourself time to slow down and exhale. It's just so important. Yeah.
I think, why don't we just take a moment to like breathe?
Yeah, let's do it
now. Everyone.
Just take a breath.
Take a breath.
Thank you so much for listening to part 1 of the 50th episode of The Wilderness of Creativity. I'm so glad you're here. If you join the Wild Wanderer membership for just £5 a month, which is about the price of a coffee and a cake, then you get early access to all the new episodes. You get exclusive interviews and juicy bonus content, plus behind-the-scenes updates. Tap the link in the show notes to sign up and become a Wild Wanderer today. Thanks for listening. Stay wild.